The kitchen bulb in Sarah's one-bedroom apartment off North Lamar gave a tired flicker at 10:57 p.m., the same time it always did when the AC kicked on downstairs. The place smelled faintly of baby shampoo and yesterday's mac and cheese from the blue box. She stood in the narrow space between the fridge and the sink, barefoot on linoleum that had started curling at the edges years before she moved in. The baby monitor clipped to the waistband of her faded hand sweatpants crackled again, Elijah's small, restless grunts building into the familiar pre-cry rhythm. He was 6 months old and still woke every 3 hours like clockwork, no matter how much she begged the universe for one full night. Hi family, I need you to please help subscribe and watch my video to the end. Please remember to subscribe to my channel. Let us continue. She opened the Similac can with a soft pop. The powder looked pitifully shallow, maybe 3 scoops if she was lucky, 4 if she skimped on the water ratio tonight. Payday at the diner was Friday, and the second job stocking shelves at the H-E-B overnight shift didn't deposit until then either. She'd already stretched the last box of diapers by folding the tabs tighter and praying the tabs held. Formula was non-negotiable. Sarah pulled her phone from the pocket of her hoodie, same one she'd worn to both jobs today, and opened messages to her sister Jess. The screen glow was harsh against the dim room. Her thumbs moved on autopilot note. Hey Jess, can you cash app me $40 for formula? I'm short till Friday. Elijah's almost out. She hit send without double-checking the number. 1 digit off. +15125550192 instead of the saved contact labeled just 2 hearts. The little blue bubble appeared, delivered. She stared at it for half a second, brain catching up too late. Oh no, she whispered, already typing. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Wrong number. That was meant for my sister. Please ignore this. Send. Her face burned even though the apartment was empty except for the baby. She set the phone face down on the counter like it might bite her, then hurried to the nursery as the monitor switched from grunts to full wails. The bottle warmer clicked on with a soft beep. She'd mixed the last good scoop earlier and set it aside just in case. Elijah's cries sharpened the moment she stepped through the doorway. She scooped him up, pressed his warm cheek to her shoulder, and rocked him in the dark while the bottle finished heating. The motion was automatic now, sway, pat, shush, like breathing. Back in the kitchen, the phone stayed dark for a long minute. Sarah didn't notice. She was humming "You Are My Sunshine" under her breath, the way her mom used to, trying to stretch the seconds until the warmer dinged. 15 minutes away, in a quiet condo with floor-to-ceiling windows facing Lady Bird Lake, Keo Martin sat alone at the long kitchen island. Gray Nike sweatpants, a plain black hoodie, the hood down because the place was warm enough. A Whataburger bag sat open in front of him, number 1 with extra pickles, fries long gone cold. He'd taken 3 bites before the exhaustion caught up and made food feel pointless. 14 hours of back-to-back calls. Singapore at dawn his time, then Austin investors who still asked the same questions they'd asked 6 months ago. His phone, propped against the La Croix can, lit up with a gentle chime. He reached for it, expecting the wire confirmation he'd been waiting on. Instead, the preview text read like something from another life. Hey Jess, can you cash app me $40 for formula? I'm short till Friday. Elijah's almost out. He opened it fully, read it twice. The follow-up apology popped in right after. Area code 512. Local. Someone in the city, probably not far, was holding a crying baby right now, staring at an empty can, and had accidentally texted a stranger worth more than most small countries. Keo didn't smile. He didn't scoff. He simply sat with the message glowing on the screen, the city lights stripping slow patterns across the hardwood floor. Somewhere out there, a tired mother was waiting for a reply that would never come from her sister. The phone stayed in his hand. He didn't delete the thread. Keo Martins didn't move from the barstool. The Whataburger wrapper crinkled faintly when he shifted his weight, but otherwise the condo was quiet except for the low hum of the wine fridge and the distant whoosh of traffic far below on Cesar Chavez Street. The screen in his hand stayed bright, Sarah's apology still sitting there in plain text. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Wrong number. That was meant for my sister. Please ignore this." He read both messages again, slower this time. The first one had the raw edge of someone who'd been running on fumes, $40 for formula, a baby named Elijah mentioned like it was the most natural thing in the world. The second was pure embarrassment, the kind that made people want to disappear. He knew that feeling. He'd felt it himself years ago, different circumstances, same helpless math. At 34, Keogh had built 3 companies from scratch. The first sold for 8 figures before he turned 25. The second went public. The third, a quiet infrastructure play in renewable microgrids, was the one that turned quiet money into the kind that made Forbes whisper his name instead of shouting it. He kept the profile low on purpose. No red carpets, no sponsored posts, no fleet of black SUVs idling outside restaurants. Just work, a gym membership he actually used, and takeout on nights like this when the clock passed midnight and the day still wasn't done. He set the phone down for a second, rubbed the bridge of his nose, then picked it right back up. Something about the timing, the late hour, the casual mention of a baby monitor probably going off in the background, made it hard to swipe away. He pictured a woman somewhere in the same city, maybe 10 miles away, maybe 2, packing a small living room with a crying infant while the formula can sat empty on the counter. He, grown up in a house where money was counted in quarters and dimes. His mom had worked doubles at the hospital cafeteria so he could have new sneakers for school pictures. $40 wasn't nothing then, and it still wasn't now for most people. The city lights kept sliding across the floor in slow bands of gold and blue. He typed 4 words, deleted them. Typed 3 more, deleted those 2. No need to sound clever or charitable, just honest. Finally, he settled on something simple. "I think you meant to send this to someone else." He hit send before he could second-guess it. No emoji, no follow-up, no signature, just the sentence, plain and level. Back in the North Austin apartment, Sarah had just settled Elijah back into the crib with the warmed bottle. He latched on with sleepy determination, tiny fist curled against her shirt. She exhaled, shoulders dropping for the first time in hours. The phone buzzed once on the kitchen counter, short, single vibration. She assumed it was just finally answering, maybe with an apology for being slow or a screenshot of the Cash App transfer. She carried Elijah's empty bottle back to the sink, rinsed it under cool water, then reached for the phone. The unknown number stared back at her. Her pulse jumped, not Jess. The stranger had replied. She stood frozen in the doorway between kitchen and hallway, the monitor clipped to her waistband now silent, the apartment suddenly too quiet. The message glowed in the dark, polite, calm, no judgment. She swallowed, cheeks warming again. Part of her wanted to delete the thread and pretend the whole thing never happened. Another part, the part that was bone-tired and out of options, wondered if she should just say thank you and disappear. But the reply was already there, waiting for her to decide what came next. Sarah stared at the stranger's message glowing on her screen. "I think you meant to send this to someone else." No sarcasm, no lecture, just a calm observation that made her feel seen instead of scolded. She stood in the narrow hallway between the nursery and kitchen, one hand still resting on the crib rail where Elijah now slept with the bottle nipple fallen from his mouth. The apartment was quiet except for the soft tick of the wall clock and the occasional car passing on the street below. She typed "yeah, sorry" again and deleted it, too casual. She tried "thanks for understanding" and deleted that too. Her thumb hovered. Part of her wanted to end the thread right there, block the number, pretend the mix-up never happened, go back to figuring out tomorrow on her own. But the exhaustion was bone-deep tonight, the kind that made every decision feel heavier than it should. And the message had been kind, not pitying, just normal. She exhaled and typed the truth, short and plain. "Yes, definitely wrong number. I'm mortified. My sister's contact is 1 digit off. Thank you for not being weird about it. She hit send before she could overthink it, then carried the phone back to the kitchen counter and set it down like it might burn her. She busied herself wiping the bottle parts with a dish towel, rinsing the warmer, anything to keep her hands moving. The screen stayed dark for almost 2 full minutes, long enough that she started to relax, telling herself the stranger had already moved on to whatever important life he had at 11-something at night. Then the phone buzzed once, soft, single vibration. She picked it up slowly. The reply was just as straightforward as the first. No problem at all. Hope your little one is okay tonight. That was it. No questions, no offer to help, no awkward attempt to keep talking. Just a quiet acknowledgement that there was a baby involved and that mattered. Sarah's throat tightened unexpectedly. Not from tears, she was too tired for that, but from the simple fact that someone had noticed. In the last 6 months since Elijah's dad stopped answering texts, she'd gotten used to handling everything alone. The pediatrician appointments, the formula runs, the late-night rocking when the crying wouldn't stop. People at work asked how she was doing, but it was always the surface version. This stranger, whoever he was, had asked about the baby, not her bank account. Not her plans, just the baby. She sat on one of the mismatched kitchen chairs, the wood creaking under her. Elijah's soft breathing came through the monitor in gentle waves. She reread the message twice, then typed back before she could talk herself out of it. He's finally asleep. Thanks for asking, really. She sent it, then immediately felt exposed. Why had she added that? It sounded like she was inviting more conversation. She wasn't, or maybe she was, she didn't know anymore. Across town, Keo read her reply and felt the same small tug he'd felt when the first message landed. He leaned back against the island, the city lights still painting slow patterns on the floor. He didn't reply right away. Instead, he let the words sit. A baby finally asleep. A mother who sounded like she'd been holding her breath for hours. He typed one more line, kept it light. Glad to hear it. Get some rest if you can. Send. He set the phone down, picked up the cold Whataburger wrapper and carried it to the trash. The night felt different now, quieter but not empty. He didn't expect another message. He didn't need one. But the thread stayed open on his screen, a small, unexpected bridge between 2 lives that had no business crossing. In the North Austin apartment, Sarah read his last text and let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She turned off the kitchen light, leaving only the glow from the baby monitor. For the first time in weeks, the silence didn't feel quite so heavy. Sarah remained seated at the small kitchen table long after Elijah's breathing had evened out through the monitor. The single overhead light was off now. Only the faint blue glow from the baby cam screen lit her face. Keo's last message, glad to hear it. Get some rest if you can. Hung on her phone like an unexpected kindness she didn't know how to hold. She reread it 3 times, each pass making the heat in her cheeks climb higher. She felt ridiculous, not just for the wrong number but for replying at all, for letting a stranger know her son was finally asleep, for sounding grateful when she should have shut the conversation down after the first apology. What kind of person kept texting back? She pictured him, probably some guy in his 30s with a normal life, maybe scrolling through his phone while his girlfriend or wife slept in the next room, and cringed at how pathetic her messages must look. A single mom begging for $40 on Cash App, accidentally dumping her stress on someone who didn't sign up for it. She opened the thread again, thumb hovering over the delete icon. One tap and it would be gone. No trace. No evidence she'd ever reached out to a stranger at 11 o'clock at night because she couldn't afford her baby's next meal. But she didn't press it. Instead, she typed quickly, words tumbling out before embarrassment could strangle them. I'm really sorry again. I feel so stupid right now. I've been running on empty and wasn't thinking straight. Thanks for being nice about it. I'll stop bothering you now. She hit send and immediately locked the phone, setting it face down on the table with more force than necessary. The clack echoed in the quiet apartment. She stood, stretched her arms overhead until her spine popped, then walked to the sink to rinse the dish towel she'd been clutching. Her reflection in the dark window looked small, dark circles under her eyes, hair in a messy ponytail she hadn't touched since morning, hoodie sleeves pushed up to her elbows. She looked like someone who'd been carrying too much for too long. The phone buzzed once. She froze, hands still in the sink. She told herself not to look, let it go. But after 30 seconds she dried her hands on her sweatpants and picked it up anyway. The new message was short. "You're not bothering me, seriously, no need to apologize again." No pressure to keep talking, no prying questions, just a gentle pushback against her self-blame. Sarah's eyes stung, not full tears, just the prickling that came when someone refused to let her disappear into shame. She blinked hard, swallowed, and set the phone back down without replying. She moved through the apartment on quiet feet, checking Elijah one more time, his little chest rising and falling under the thin blanket pacifier half out of his mouth, then turned off the nursery light. In the living room she sank onto the second-hand couch, knees pulled to her chest, and stared at the blank TV screen. The embarrassment still sat heavy in her stomach, but it was softer now, edged with something unfamiliar, relief that the stranger hadn't judged her, hadn't ghosted her, hadn't made her feel smaller than she already did. She didn't text back, not yet, but she didn't delete the thread either. Across the city, Keo read her last message and felt the quiet weight of it. He stood, carried the empty La Croix can to the recycling bin under the sink, then walked to the window. The lake below reflected the downtown lights in broken silver pieces. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story beyond those few raw sentences, but he recognized the tone of someone who'd been carrying everything alone for too long. He'd seen it in his mom's eyes when he was small. He felt it himself before the first exit happened. He left the thread open on his phone and turned off the kitchen lights. Tomorrow would bring another 14-hour day. But tonight, for the first time in months, the silence in his condo didn't feel quite so complete. Sarah stayed curled on the couch for another 20 minutes, knees drawn up, hoodie sleeves tugged over her hands. The apartment had settled into that deep late-night stillness where every small sound felt amplified, the hum of the fridge, the occasional creak of the building settling, Elijah's soft exhales through the monitor. She kept glancing at the phone on the coffee table, screen dark now, but the last messages still vivid in her mind. The stranger's reply had landed gently. "You're not bothering me. Seriously, no need to apologize again." Simple words, yet they refused to let her sink fully into the shame she'd wrapped around herself. She reached for the phone once, twice, then pulled her hand back. What was there to say? Thank you again. Goodbye? Nothing felt right. The embarrassment still simmered, but beneath it something else stirred, curiosity maybe, or just the strange comfort of being answered at all. Most people would have left her on read. This one hadn't. Across town, Keo hadn't moved far from the kitchen island. He dimmed the overhead lights to a single pendant above the sink, leaving the rest of the condo in soft shadow. The lake outside the windows looked black and endless, dotted only by the navigation lights of a late-night boat drifting toward the dam. His phone rested beside the empty La Croix can, screen still showing their short exchange. He hadn't closed the thread. He hadn't replied either. Stood, walked to the living room window, and pressed his palm against the cool glass. The city sprawled below in quiet grids of light. He thought about his own mother, how she'd once stood in a similar kitchen at midnight, counting change for milk while he slept in the next room. One winter the power had been cut for 3 days because the bill was $47 short. A neighbor had slipped an envelope under the door the next morning. No name, just cash and a note that said, "Pay it forward when you can." His mom never found out who it was. She still talked about it sometimes, voice softer than usual. Keo exhaled against the window, fogging the glass for a second. He didn't know this woman's name, didn't know if she had anyone else to call tonight, but the math was familiar, one small shortage turning into a sleepless night, then another, then weeks that blurred together. He picked up the phone again. His thumb moved slowly across the keyboard. Type, Pause, delete, type again. He wasn't trying to fix anything. He wasn't trying to play hero. He just wanted to know one thing. Is your baby okay? He stared at the sentence for a long beat. 5 words, nothing flashy, nothing that promised more than they could deliver. He hit send before the second guessing could take over. The message left his phone and traveled the invisible distance between them. In the North Austin apartment, Sarah's screen lit up on the coffee table. She saw the notification flash and felt her pulse jump. She picked it up slowly, almost afraid to read it. Is your baby okay? 4 words, no pressure, no agenda, just a question that cut straight through the noise in her head. Her eyes stung again, sharper this time, not from embarrassment now, but from the simple recognition that anyone, had thought to ask. She didn't answer right away. She sat with the question, letting it settle. Elijah was okay tonight, breathing steady, warm, fed at least for a few more hours. But the bigger picture, the empty can, the overdue light bill taped to the fridge, the way her shoulders never fully relaxed, felt less invisible for the first time in months. She typed back, fingers steady. Yes, he's sleeping now. Thank you for checking. She sent it, then leaned her head against the couch cushion and closed her eyes. The phone stayed in her lap, warm against her thigh. She didn't expect another reply tonight. She didn't need one, but the thread between them hadn't snapped. Keo read her response in the dim light of his condo. A small breath left him, relief maybe, or just the quiet satisfaction of knowing the answer was yes. He set the phone down, turned off the last light, and headed toward the bedroom. Tomorrow would start early, but tonight the silence felt different, lighter, like something small had shifted, even if neither of them could name it yet. Sarah didn't move from the couch right away. Keo's question, is your baby okay? And her own short answer still lingered on the screen like a small crack in the wall she'd built around her days. The apartment was dark except for the soft blue pulse of the baby monitor. She stared at the ceiling, tracing a faint water stain she'd never bothered to fix, and felt the weight of the last 6 months pressed down in a new way, not heavier but clearer. She picked up the phone again. The time read 11:42 p.m. She should be asleep. She should be shutting this down. Instead, her thumbs started moving, slow at first, then steadier. He's okay tonight. Bottle's done, he's out, but tomorrow's another story. I work 2 jobs, waitressing days at the diner on Koenig, stocking shelves overnight at H-E-B 3 times a week. Paycheck hits Friday, but the formula ran out faster than I planned. His dad, he stopped sending anything 6 months ago. No warning, just gone. I've been covering everything solo since then. Rent, diapers, utilities, all of it. $40 would have gotten me through till the deposit clears. Sounds small, but it's not when you're counting scoops. She paused, rereading the block of text. No tears, no drama, just the plain facts she usually kept locked inside. She hit send before the impulse to delete it could win. The message flew across the city. Keo was brushing his teeth when the notification lit his phone on the bathroom counter. He rinsed, wiped his mouth, and carried the device back to the living room without turning on any more lights. He sat on the edge of the sectional, elbows on his knees, and read her words twice. No exaggeration, no plea for sympathy, just the unvarnished arithmetic of survival. He recognized every line of it. Different details, same equation. His mom had worked graveyard shifts at the hospital cafeteria while he did homework in the break room. Bills came first, food second, everything else last. He'd been the kid who knew exactly how many days were left until the next paycheck because he'd overheard the conversations through thin walls. He didn't reply immediately. He let the message sit while he walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and drank half of it standing at the sink. Then he returned to the couch and typed carefully. That's a lot to carry alone. Sounds like you're doing everything you can. Elijah's lucky to have you fighting that hard for him. He sent it, no offer yet, no solution, just acknowledgement. Sarah's phone buzzed in her lap. She read his reply and felt something loosen in her chest, not relief exactly, but the absence of judgment. Most people who heard even a piece of her story either offered empty platitudes or changed the subject. This stranger had stayed with the facts and added one quiet truth. She was fighting. He'd seen it. She typed back, shorter this time. Thanks, I don't usually dump all that on people, especially not strangers at midnight. But yeah, it's a lot. Send. She set the phone beside her on the cushion and pulled the throw blanket over her legs. The conversation felt dangerous in its honesty, like stepping onto thin ice, but it also felt safe in a way she hadn't expected. No one was watching. No one was grabbing her, just words traveling back and forth in the dark. Keo read her response and nodded to himself, even though no one could see it. He typed one more line. You didn't dump. You answered a question honestly. That's different. He hit send, then stood and walked to the bedroom doorway. He didn't close the thread. He left the phone charging on the nightstand, screen face down, the small glow fading as the city outside kept its quiet watch. In the North Austin apartment, Sarah read his last message and let her head fall back against the couch. For the first time in a long time, the silence around her didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like space, room to breathe, even if just for tonight. Sarah woke to the soft chime of her phone at 7:14 a.m., sunlight slicing through the half-closed blinds in thin gold stripes across the living room floor. Elijah was still asleep in the nursery, monitor quiet for once. She rubbed her eyes, reached for the device on the coffee table, and opened the banking app out of habit, checking the balance she already knew was too low. A new notification waited at the top. Cash app transfer received. $200 from an unknown sender. The memo line read only for formula and whatever else you need. Her heart stuttered. She sat up straight, blanket sliding to the floor. She opened the transaction details. The money had landed 20 minutes earlier while she slept. No note beyond the brief line. She stared at the number, $200, long enough that the screen timed out and went dark. She reopened the messages with the stranger. Their last exchange from the night before still sat there, her admitting how much she carried alone, his quiet reply that she hadn't dumped anything on him. She hadn't asked for help, hadn't hinted, yet here it was. She typed fast, fingers trembling slightly. You sent $200. I think it was a mistake. I only mentioned $40. I can send it back right now if you give me your Cash App tag or whatever. She hit send, pulse loud in her ears. She waited, staring at the delivered marker. Elijah stirred in the next room, small coos turning into wake-up fussing. She stood, moved to the nursery on autopilot, lifted him from the crib and pressed her cheek to his warm head while rocking him gently. The phone stayed silent on the coffee table. Keo was already up, dressed in dark jeans and a plain navy crewneck, coffee brewing in the kitchen while he scrolled through overnight emails on his tablet. The notification popped in at 7:16 a.m. He read her message once, then set the tablet down. He hadn't slept much, 5 hours maybe, but the decision had felt clear when he made it at 2 a.m. Not a fortune, not charity theater, just enough to buy breathing room. Formula for a couple weeks, maybe groceries, maybe one less overnight shift. He typed back, keeping it even. No mistake, it's yours. Use it for Elijah. No need to send anything back. He sent it, then poured coffee into a travel mug. He didn't wait for a reply. He grabbed his keys, headed for the elevator, and stepped into the morning light already warming the sidewalk outside his building. Sarah read the response while feeding Elijah his first bottle of the day, powder mixed fresh from the last of the can. She reread Keo's words twice. No strings, no expectation, just it's yours. Her eyes burned, but she blinked it away. She couldn't afford to cry right now. She had a shift at the diner in 90 minutes. She typed carefully, one-handed while holding the bottle. I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel big enough. I'll pay it forward when I can, I promise. You didn't have to do this. Send. She set the phone down, finished feeding Elijah, changed him into a clean onesie, and started getting ready for work. The extra money sat in her account like a small, warm shield against the next few days. She didn't feel fixed. She didn't feel indebted. She felt seen, and that was enough to carry her through the morning. Keo's phone buzzed in the cup holder as he merged onto I-35. He glanced at the message, felt the corner of his mouth lift the smallest fraction. Not a smile, just a quiet acknowledgement. He didn't reply. Some things didn't need more words. He turned up the radio instead, low, classic rock, and drove toward the first meeting of the day, the city waking up around him in ordinary, unhurried light. Sarah finished her morning shift at the diner just after 2 p.m., the smell of coffee and bacon still clinging to her apron as she stepped into the bright Texas sun. She'd checked her phone only once during the rush. Elijah was with the neighbor's teenage daughter for a couple of hours, and the $200 still sat untouched in her Cash App balance like something fragile she wasn't ready to spend yet. Every time she thought about using it, gratitude tangled with unease. It felt too generous, too easy. Back home, she changed out of her uniform, fed Elijah his afternoon bottle, and settled him for a nap. The apartment felt quieter than usual, sunlight pooling on the worn carpet in warm patches. She sat at the kitchen table with her phone and opened the thread again. Keo's last message from the morning. No mistake. It's yours. Use it for Elijah. No need to send anything back. Hadn't changed. She stared at it until the words blurred. She typed slowly, choosing each word with care. I appreciate what you did more than I can say. Really. But I can't just take $200 from someone I don't know. It doesn't sit right. I'll send it back unless you tell me how to reach you properly. Or at least let me know your name so I can thank you like a person, not a random number. She hit send, then stood and walked to the window, arms crossed over her chest. Outside, kids rode bikes in lazy circles on the cracked sidewalk below. She watched them until her phone buzzed. The reply came in under 2 minutes. You don't owe me repayment, but if it helps you sleep better, my name is Keo. And if you really want to do something with it, pay it forward one day. Help someone else when you're in a position to. That's enough. No pressure to keep the money. No insistence on gratitude. Just a name, Keo, and a quiet suggestion that turned the gift into something shared rather than owed. Sarah read it twice, the knot in her stomach loosening a fraction. Pay it forward. She could do that. She'd done small versions of it before, covering a coffee for the person behind her in line, slipping an extra pack of diapers into the community box at the laundromat. This felt bigger, but the principle was the same. She typed back lighter now. Keo, got it. Thank you for the name and for the out. I'll hold on to the money until I can use it the way you meant. And yeah, I'll pay it forward. Promise. Send. She set the phone down and moved to the nursery doorway, watching Elijah sleep with one tiny hand curled near his cheek. The extra funds meant options she hadn't had yesterday. Full cans of formula, maybe fresh fruit instead of just bananas. One less shift that left her too tired to play with him. It wasn't freedom, but it was space. Breathing room. She felt the first real flicker of relief since the transfer landed. Keo was in a conference room on the east side of downtown, mid-pitch with 2 potential partners when the notification came through. He glanced at his watch, still 10 minutes left in the meeting, then excused himself for 30 seconds to read her reply in the hallway. The corner of his mouth lifted again, small and private. She hadn't taken the easy out. She'd drawn her own line, kept her dignity intact, and still accepted the help on terms that felt right to her. He slipped the phone back into his pocket without replying. There was nothing left to say right now. The boundary she'd set was clean, respectful. He respected it. He returned to the conference room, refocused, and closed the meeting with the same steady calm he always carried. Later, driving back across the river as the afternoon light turned golden, he thought about her promise to pay it forward. It echoed the note his mom had kept in her dresser drawer for years, the one from the anonymous neighbor who'd saved them that winter. Some circles closed quietly. Others stayed open, waiting. In the North Austin apartment, Sarah started dinner, Simple grilled cheese and tomato soup for herself, pureed carrots for Elijah. The phone stayed silent on the counter, the thread between them resting now, not closed, just paused, respectful distance in place. For the first time in a long time, the evening ahead felt manageable. Sarah waited until Elijah was down for the night before she opened the Cash App transaction again. The $200 still sat there, untouched except for the small transfer fee that had already been deducted. Keo's last message, "Pay it forward one day," had settled something inside her. She wasn't keeping it out of obligation. She was keeping it because refusing would have felt like rejecting kindness itself. But curiosity had started to creep in during the quiet hours after dinner. She tapped the sender details in the app. Most transfers showed only a username or a phone number. This one pulled up a full name attached to the account, Keo Martins. No profile picture, no bio, just the name and the verified checkmark that Cash App gave to high-value accounts. She copied the name into her phone's browser and hit search. The first result was a short Forbes article from 2 years earlier. Keo Martins, the quiet architect of Texas's clean energy future. The piece described him as a 34-year-old founder who'd quietly built and exited 2 tech companies before launching a firm that financed small-scale solar and battery storage projects across the Southwest. No splashy lifestyle photos, no yacht, just a single headshot, dark eyes, calm expression, the same steady look she imagined behind the texts. Net worth estimates varied wildly in the sidebar links, but every credible source placed him comfortably in the billionaire range, private and low profile. She scrolled further. LinkedIn showed a sparse profile, University of Texas grad, early career at a venture fund in Austin, then independent. No flashy endorsements. A local business journal mentioned him donating to a children's hospital expansion without fanfare. Another article noted he lived in a downtown condo, drove a modest electric SUV, and avoided the startup bro scene entirely. Sarah leaned back in the kitchen chair, phone cradled in both hands. The man who'd sent her $200 without hesitation was someone who could buy entire city blocks and never notice the expense. Yet he'd chosen the exact amount that would ease her week without overwhelming her. Not 10,000, not a flashy gesture, just enough. Her stomach twisted with a mix of awe and disbelief. She opened the message thread again, staring at his replies, short, human, never once hinting at who he was. He could have ignored her. He could have sent nothing. Instead, he'd asked if her baby was okay, listened to her facts without pity, and acted without making it about himself. She typed, deleted, typed again. The words felt small against what she'd just learned, but she sent them anyway. "I looked up your name, Keo Martins. I had no idea. Why would someone like you help a random stranger with $200? I'm grateful, more than grateful, but I still don't understand." She hit send and immediately regretted the question. It sounded accusatory, needy. She set the phone face down and walked to the nursery doorway, watching Elijah's chest rise and fall under the thin blanket. The apartment was still, the only light coming from the street lamp outside filtering through the blinds. Her phone buzzed once, soft in the quiet. She picked it up slowly. His reply was there, 4 lines. "Because when I was 5, my mom was short on groceries 1 month. A neighbor left an envelope with cash on our porch. No name, no note except pay it forward when you can. She never forgot it. Neither did I, that's all." No elaboration, no attempt to impress, just a memory offered plainly like it explained everything. Sarah read it twice, then a third time. The parallel hit her quietly, no grand speeches, no dramatic backstory, just a childhood moment that had stayed with him the way her own struggles would probably stay with Elijah someday. She felt the last of her unease dissolve, replaced by something warmer, steadier. Respect, maybe, or recognition. She didn't reply right away. Instead, she saved his number under Keo in her contacts. No heart emoji, no label that presumed more than what existed. Then she turned off the kitchen light and moved to the couch, pulling the blanket over her legs. The city hummed faintly outside. Somewhere across town, Keo was probably winding down his own long day. The thread between them felt different now, not heavier but deeper. Two people who'd both known what it was to need help, connected by nothing more than a wrong digit and a small act that refused to stay small. Sarah sat motionless on the couch long after Elijah's breathing had deepened into the steady rhythm of deep sleep. The phone rested in her lap, screen still showing Keo's last message, the brief memory of an envelope on a porch, a mother who never forgot, a boy who carried the lesson forward. No flourish, no bid for admiration, just the quiet origin of why he'd sent the money. She reread it until the words felt etched behind her eyes. The parallel wasn't dramatic, it was ordinary, almost painfully so. A single act of help when someone was small enough to remember it forever. She thought of Elijah at 5, maybe standing in the same apartment asking why the lights flickered during storms, why groceries sometimes came in smaller bags. She wanted him to know kindness existed without strings, without fanfare. Keo had given her a glimpse of how that lesson could root itself early and stay. Her thumbs moved before she could talk herself out of the question that had been building since she first saw his name in the app. Why would someone like you help me? I mean, really, you could ignore a random text. You could send nothing. Why answer at all, let alone send money? She sent it and immediately felt the vulnerability of the words. Too direct, too searching, but she didn't delete it. She waited. Across the city, Keo had just finished a late call with his team in California. The condo was dark except for the desk lamp in his home office and the city glow filtering through the windows. He saw the new message pop in as he closed his laptop. He read it once, then leaned back in the chair, elbows on the armrests. He didn't rush the reply. He let the question sit while he stood, walked to the kitchen, and poured a glass of water from the filtered pitcher. The lake outside looked calm tonight, surface flat under the moon. He thought about his mother again, not the struggle, but the way she'd hugged him extra tight the day after that envelope appeared. How she'd told him stories of people who helped without needing credit. How she'd made sure he understood that giving quietly was its own kind of strength. He returned to the desk, opened the thread and typed. Because someone helped my mom when I was 5. She was short on groceries 1 month. A neighbor left cash on our porch, no name, just a note that said pay it forward when you can. We never found out who, but it changed how she saw the world and how I saw it. That's the only reason. He read it back, plain, honest, nothing added for effect. He hit send. The message traveled the short distance between them. Sarah's phone lit on the couch cushion. She picked it up, read the words, and felt the last piece click into place. Not romance, not obligation, just connection. Two people who'd both stood in kitchens counting what little they had. Two people who'd learned the same quiet rule, help when you can because someone once did the same for you. She didn't cry. She didn't text back immediately. Instead she stood, walked to the nursery and looked down at Elijah sleeping with one arm thrown over his head. She brushed a soft curl from his forehead and whispered, "We're going to be okay, little man." She returned to the living room, sat again, and finally typed a single line. "Thank you for telling me that. It means more than the money ever could." Send. She turned off the lamp, leaving only the faint streetlight to outline the room. The thread stayed open between them, simple, unhurried, rooted in something older than either of them. No rush toward anything more. Just two lives brushed close by accident, then held there by choice. Keo read her reply as he shut down the office light. A small breath left him. He didn't answer tonight. There was no need. The circle had turned once quietly. Whatever came next, if anything, would arrive in its own time. Outside, Austin slept under a wide Texas sky, ordinary and full of small, unseen kindnesses still waiting to happen.